Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Grind Line here at the Hockey Writers. I am your host, Matthew Zator, and as always, I'm joined in by my line mates, Evan Sabourin and Devin Little. Um, guys, the Red Wings had a pretty good week, I guess. Okay week. World Juniors just wrapped up, and Red Wings prospects were prominent in the gold medal game at 2-1 on each side. Well, actually, a couple on Sweden and then one on the U.S. But how's it going, Evan? I'll start with you.
Not bad, man. It was a good week. I got to go. I was up in San Jose for the Red Wings Sharks game, and while I was working, I didn't really get to see what was really going on in the game. But we came out with a win, so I was happy. And yeah, and then I got to go again last night, and check out another good win. So they weren't pretty wins, but they're wins, and we'll take what we can get.
For sure,
Devin, how about you?
especially this time of the year.
Yeah.
For
All right,
sure,
how's it
for
going,
sure.
Devin?
Man, it's going good. Like you said, can't be too upset with two wins in the week, right? Starting off the new year. The Red Wings are undefeated in 2024, and that's probably the last time I'll be able to say that. So I'm gonna say it while I can.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, we're very early in the year, actually, just a few days, and yeah, a couple wins in the books, but that won't obviously won't last the whole year. But yeah, Christmas is wrapping up, and well, Christmas is done, I guess. But I keep my tree up until probably beginning of this week, so it's still up. But yeah, it's been good. So before we get going, though, we got to mention our Substack here at the Hockey Writers. It's been revamped, like we've said a few times here, but lots of great stuff. The premium content is rolling pretty much every day. You got some premium stuff on the Substack, so give that a look. You not just don't just get access to the Red Wings, you get access to all the team's prospects, hockey history, lots of fun stuff. So check that out in the link below. All right, well, let's get to our first segment. We always start the show here in our one good, one bad. And Evan, I'll start with you. A good and a bad from this past week.
Well, the good for me was last night heading into the game. I was standing in line, about to give my ticket to the whatever the ticket checker, whatever. And there's a guy standing behind me, and he's wearing a blue Lions hat with a Red Wings t-shirt on. And I didn't even look at his face, and I just said, "Oh yeah, man, go Lions, baby, let's go." And my buddy turns to me, he goes, "Do you know who that was?" I said, I didn't really look at his face. It was Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, the
Oh,
drummer. Big Red Wings fan.
No
So
way.
I think he begrudgingly took a picture with me. Was probably annoyed, but that was really cool. It's great to see. I mean, when you come go see the Red Wings out here in LA, there's a lot of celebrities that come out. I mean, the Red Wings are still they're America's team. They're the Dallas Cowboys of the NHL. But yeah, it was a good game last night. Didn't start off great. Still got outshot a lot, but they came to play and took the win, man, against a very good Los Angeles Kings team.
yeah, the Kings are up there in the Pacific Division. I think they're like second in the Pacific or third, one of those. But yeah, it was a good win against a really good team for sure. And yeah, Devin, good and a bad from this past week.
So real quick, you're telling me that Chad Smith and Will Ferrell were in the same building at the same time again? It's
Yep.
are we sure that it was Chad behind you and not Will?
I can't
Yeah,
trust him, man.
Will Ferrell's not a Red Wings fan, so we're good there. But my one bad, ironically enough, was actually going to be Will Ferrell cheering for the Kings and not the Red Wings, but we already knew he was a Kings fan, so
Yeah.
that's no, my one, I'm gonna give two goods here. One of them is not hockey related, but I gotta throw it out there. The University of Michigan making the national championship. Evan, I know you're a Spartan guy, so I'm sure you're not too happy about it, but it's fun to see a team from Michigan have a chance at a championship. So go blue. And then the other good I want to throw out there would be just the 1-2 punch of Lucas Raymond and Patrick Kane in the shootout. Saw that against the LA Kings, and man, I would hate to be a goalie facing the Red Wings in a shootout because Raymond's really developing into a nice shooter in the shootout. I don't think he's missed this season, and then he's looked good just in the past. And then Patrick Kane, we all know what he does. We already knew he was a clutch guy in the shootout. So to go from Lucas Raymond to Patrick Kane, um, you almost don't have an opportunity to even shoot a third time, which is what happened last night against the Kings. So it's fun heading into the shootout and knowing that the Red Wings have that kind of firepower, because it wasn't that long ago that like you'd get into the shootout and it's like, all right, if Larkin doesn't score, I don't know what's going to happen because no one else is going to be able to do it. So, uh, yeah, we've come a long way, let me tell you.
Yeah, I don't like the shootout. I wish they just get rid of it, but just extend the 3-on-3. I still think so. But
Especially that 3-on-3. Last night's 3-on-3 overtime was one of the better ones I've seen in a while.
mhm. Yeah, in general, the 3-on-3s become less fast paced. I think it depends on the game, but it just seems like a lot of teams are more strategic. They bump it back, they go, we want to change, and then they come out of the zone, regroup, and it's like it it wasn't as like insane as when it first started, where it was like just chaos. But I think just teams just started figuring out, well, we can't do that. We're gonna lose most of the time if you do that all the time. But yeah, my good is that I have 2 wins in the beginning of the year here, and are still in that playoff mix. I mean, it's not like they're out of it. They're in that realm still. So hope's not lost on the playoffs for sure. And a bad is, well, I guess it could be a good and a bad, since Trey Augustine won the gold, but Axel Sandin-Pellikka didn't. So I guess you've got the good slash bad. I guess you were good as coming in as a Red Wings fan. So, well, you're gonna have one prospect win gold. Either, but yeah, we'll talk about the World Juniors later on. But before we get there, let's talk about that California road trip. And they have the 2 wins on it so far. And sometimes I mean, it used to be worse in the past with how strong the teams were. Where the San Jose Sharks were powerhouse. Now, not so much. You got the Kings are probably the powerhouse now. You got the Anaheim Ducks are in a rebuild. San Jose Sharks are definitely in a rebuild. Those 2 teams are on a 10-game losing streak right now. But yeah, they're not as hard, but it's still tough when you're coming out from the east out to as far west. But they are 2 for 2 on this road trip. Coming now against the Anaheim Ducks. The Ducks again, they're a rebuilding team, but they're not pushovers. They can win games. They got a lot of good young talent that have seemed to surprise teams at the beginning of the season, kind of fallen off lately. But I'll start with you, Devin. Is this a must-win game? At the grand scheme of the season right now, I mean, like I said, they're in that mix of the playoffs. You can't go on any losing streaks, but better off to keep winning. Is this a must-win game?
By the textbook definition of the phrase must win, no, it's not, because there's still a half a season to play, right? But just with how December went, um, and how important January just feels like it's gonna be, uh, they need to win this game just to keep momentum going, just to keep building on the wins that they've had, and to maybe give me another week where I can say the Red Wings are undefeated in 2024. But beyond that, really, it's just about kind of getting back on track and trying to put December behind them and start to string together some wins again. The Wings need to string together some wins. That's what I was going with there. Um, it's listen, I think we said it a week or two ago. Just seems like this team's going to be streaky again. Win 5 out of 6 and then lose 4 out of 5, and then so on and so forth. Seems like it's going to be that kind of season. Um, and that just kind of means that in the month of January, they can't win one, lose one, win one, lose one. They can't go 500. They need to come out of this ahead. And getting 3 out of 3 wins in California is going to help them get there. And coming out of California with 6 points should keep the momentum going and should make them feel pretty good, help them feel pretty good about themselves. Because Lord knows they could probably use all the confidence they can get given all the issues that still seem to plague them even when they win.
Yeah. As of right now, they are a point out of the second wild card spot, 2 points out of the first wild card spot. So, like I said, they're not out of it. They got a game in hand on the Lightning. And the Flyers, they've only played 38, so they have a game in hand on the Red Wings. But yeah, they're in that mix. But you got the Devils, you got the Capitals, you got the Penguins. They're all in that same boat. So yeah, you can't afford to be losing games. Evan, same thing. Is this a must-win game against the Ducks? Especially like we said, they're in that mix of the playoffs right now.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like Devin said, I don't know if it's a must win, but it would be really nice to see them start getting their momentum going. A West Coast sweep. We never play well in Los Angeles. We hadn't won out here since 2014 until last night. So it'd be nice to see them get a win in Anaheim. Anaheim is, they've got some really good young talent, and I really think that team is going to be someone. There's going to be a force to be reckoned with probably in the next 2 to 3 years with the young
Oh, yeah.
defensemen they have coming up. They're it's not going to be an easy game. Yeah, I'd definitely like to see them take home the sweep to California trip, but and then it's right back to Connor McDavid and the Oilers next week. So yeah, let's get this momentum going. Alex Lyon, it looks like they're gonna go with him, ride him as hot hand. And man, I was sitting next to Reimer at the San Jose game. He was on the bench off to the side, and he didn't look too happy. But yeah, I'm glad to see that they're sticking with line here, and I think now is with all these teams clogged together at the bottom for these wild card spot, it's time to start banking those points that they didn't do in December. So it's a big game for me. Why not?
For sure. They are, well, I mean, Maple Leafs have quite a few games in hand, so I guess it's not really. They're 3 points back of the Maple Leafs as well, but they've got, I think, 4 games and they've played 36. So yeah, a few games in hand there. Yeah, it's going to be, I mean, any win is important. But yeah, you bank 2 points, you get some momentum going. And then, like you said, Evan, they're going into the Oilers, which, I mean, they seem to be a bit streaky lately. They're winning more games than they were at the beginning of the season, but, they are a tough team, especially how they're playing right now. So we'll see what happens coming up. All right, our first off the rush now. With the trade deadline, I mean, I don't want to say it's coming up. I guess it's pretty close. Once January starts, you start thinking about this stuff. So quickly, do you foresee, I'll start with you, Devin, do you foresee them being a buyer or a seller come the trade deadline?
Oh, geez, you're putting me on the spot on this one. I see them being, I, I hate to be the Debbie Downer here, but I see them being cautious sellers. I don't see them doing like a fire sale or anything like that. I think they'll be very careful about who they keep around. There might be some guys that are on expiring contracts that they still keep around for one reason or another. Um, but I could see some other maybe fringe, for lack of better words, players sent out, not just to get some futures, but also to make room for an Edvinsson, a Berggren, whoever. Um, yeah, I don't think they'll be in a position around the trade deadline to add, at least substantially add. I think it'll end up being more of a case where they just need to trim the fat a bit.
Evan, what about you? Buyer or seller?
I hope they're a buyer, man. I'm really like I'd really hate to see if a struggle and then see Patrick Kane already move because I'm really liking Showtime.
Yeah.
So
For sure.
it's fun to watch. Um, I could see them, maybe selling off one of these veteran defensemen that are, blocking Evanson from coming up. There's always teams that are looking for veteran defenseman depth when they're making their playoff run. So,
Mm.
I mean, you could see a Mata moved. You could see maybe a Sherratt moved. I don't know about the contract, but even a Ghost Bear. So it'll be interesting to see what moves they make. I don't know yet if they're going to go for a goalie yet. I think they're going to wait this out and see how Lyon does the next month or so here. But yeah, I hope they don't. I hope they don't trade. I'm hoping they're buying.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a bit out, but it's getting closer when you're starting having to think about this. And some teams are already obviously thinking about it, like the Sharks, like the the Ducks, probably. Any of those teams at the bottom, they're already starting to think about the selling. So we're going to start seeing a lot more, or hearing a lot more rumors coming out. Some insane ones, some reasonable ones, but we'll see. We'll see which ones come with the Red Wings here. All right, before we move on to our next half of the show, we talk about World Juniors. I got to pay the bills and remind you of our Substack here at the Hockey Writers. Make sure you're checking that out. Lots of fun stuff. for the Red Wings game day previews. We got special articles, prospect updates. The latest one was probably on the World Juniors. So check that out. And yeah, lots of great stuff. Just the free version, you get just all the Red Wings articles at the Hockey Writers, all the best ones to your inbox 3 days a week. So make sure you're checking that out in the link below. All right, well, let's start. Let's talk about the World Juniors that just wrapped up as we're recording here on this day. Gold medal game at Sweden and the US, and that had a few Red Wings prospects. One not happy, one really happy. Trey Augustine on Team USA won gold. Was really good in the gold medal game. Kept them in it. I mean, not kept them in it, but he was really good. He was a lot better than Hugo Havelid, who both of them came in with insane numbers. I think they were like 1 point whatever something. It was like crazy goals against average and save percentages. So it was a goaltender's duel, which should have been, but it ended 6-2. So yeah, one was an empty netter. It was close sometimes in the games, but Augustine was really good. Axel Sandin-Pellikka really good throughout the tournament. But Devin, what do you think? In your eyes, which prospects increased their stock from this tournament? I mean, very short to look at some of these guys and saying, well, now they didn't play very well, so they're not very good. I mean, they played really well. Now they're a top prospect, even if maybe they weren't before. But Axel Sandin-Pellikka definitely is a top prospect. Trey Augustine definitely as well. Anton Johansson was in that game as too. Didn't get much ice time. I think he played like what just at the end there. It
He was just scrapping at the end, man. That was fun to see. Bring him up.
Right. So who increased their stock in your mind?
I gotta start there with Johansson because if anything about him really maybe stood out that people didn't know about him before, maybe is just the physical edge that he sometimes plays with. And that's especially, what's the word I'm looking for here? Um, you know, the Red Wings are struggling to play physical, just in the NHL right now. There's kind of a lack of physicality. We talk about Klim Kostin, but you can't really pin a team's entire physicality on one guy. And so to see a prospect like Johansson, being a tough guy in the World Juniors, which is not a tournament known for players being tough, it's easy to be like, oh man, like Evan said, bring them up. Let's they need that right now. Let's get some nastiness going. So yeah, I mean he definitely at least put his name out there more so than it was before. And then the other one, it's got to be, at least in my opinion, it's got to be Trey Augustine. Similar thing where people knew his name, and he was a second round pick in the 2023 draft. So still highly drafted for a goalie. And there's a lot of people who are still naysayers about Kosa. So Augustine's kind of the alternative. And he's playing well. He's played well this season with the Michigan State Spartans. So I mean, all together, he's had a good season, and he's been really good going into his draft and then coming out of his draft. But then to see him backstop Team USA to a gold medal, it's just like this guy really could be the goalie of the future. And now you're kind of seeing, it's one thing for him to win a random college game. It's another thing for him to win a gold medal, right? I think that at least personally, I already thought that we were heading into some interesting times in the near future where you've got Kosa and Augustine kind of battling for playing time and who's going to be that go-to guy. And now I think it's kind of like it's a reality. At some point, we're going to see that. Ideally, maybe in 5 years, everybody's going to have that Allmark Swayman thing where they're just like the perfect tandem and they both play well and they both support each other well. That's the ideal. Maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't. But after the World Juniors, I think you got to feel a lot more confident in Augustine just as a prospect and his ability to potentially be a factor for the Red Wings in goal moving forward.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Sebastian Kosa unfortunately wasn't very good in any World Juniors he appeared in. But there's still a chance that both of them become really good goaltenders. That's the hope, like you said. But yeah, Augustine definitely played really well, and he was sick, early on in the tournament, didn't play as many games as I guess everyone was thinking he would. Maybe that was a good thing because he was well rested for that gold medal game. He didn't have to play as much, but I guess being sick doesn't really help that. Evan, what do you think? I mean, wasn't just these prospects who were in the World Juniors, that Nate Danielson playing for Canada. You know, anyone that kind of stood out to you as increasing their stock?
Well, I got to go with the broken record background here because I'm going to hype up Trey Augustine because
Yeah.
he was fellow Spartan. So yeah, he was great. He was great. 4-0, 4-0 in the tournament. He had a 1.75 goals against average. So he looked really well, and I think that's the guy that we're probably most excited about. The thing is that him and Kosa are they're still years away.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the Red Wings do to what they do to bridge that gap to those two being a part of the organization. Huso, I don't see him as long term. I just don't think Yzerman views him that way either. But it was great to see a solid goal prospect, especially with how Kosa struggled in the AHL. But Axel Sandin-Pellikka was great. Yeah, really exciting player to watch. I'm really curious if his timeline is what 1 year or two. I think it could be 1 year, but he looked really great. And yeah, like you said, Anton Johansson, like fisticuffs at the end of the game today was just like, all right, that's the kind of stuff we need. We need some physical D-men that want to bang with cider, and yeah, that's the kind of thing I was looking forward to. Nate Danielson, Canada, like overall as a team was just disappointing. He had a goal and 2 assists in the tournament, but I didn't get to watch a lot of him, but from the stats that I've read, it was, he played all right. They had him down on the third and fourth lines at points during the tournament. But Kevin Bicker played okay. I watched a couple of games with Germany. He's a guy that I've been intrigued by ever since the Red Wings drafted him. So yeah, I thought it was, it was a fun tournament. I thought it was, and US was, stomped their way through it. And, seeing our goalie of the future, hopefully, taking home the gold medal today was pretty exciting. And I think the organization's pretty excited about the future with him.
For sure. I mean, all the prospects had their moments. Like Nate Danielson, I think was probably one of Canada's best forwards in the tournament, and probably shouldn't have been because, especially with all the other names that are on, he wasn't brought in to run the offense. I don't think. That's not his game. He's a two-way guy. He can score, but you weren't expecting him to carry the team offensively. So what he did, I thought he stood out in any of the games that I watched. He stood out. So yeah, impressed by Axel Sandin-Pellikka. Was played a ton in the gold medal game. I think he was about 23, 25 minutes. I think he averaged that around for most of the tournament. Actually I have the numbers here. So yeah, he played over 20 minutes in the last 4 games. So one of their top defensemen had 6 points in the 7 games. So, and scored the OT winner in the quarterfinal. So I mean, very, very impressed by him. And we've tooted his horn quite a bit on this show on Prospect Corner during his draft year. Yeah, very, very happy with how he played. I'm not going to talk about the plus minus, whatever. That's a flawed stat anyway. But yeah, he was really good. Yeah, Trey Augustine definitely really good too. So I'd say a solid tournament overall for all the Red Wings prospects. Got a gold medal and a silver medal. So medals on both sides there. So that's always good. All right. Let's talk some New Year's resolutions. Just a sec. All right. Well, since it's the beginning of the new year, and New Year's resolutions, we always do for hockey, for ourselves. But let's give some for the Red Wings. So I'll start with you, Evan. A New Year's resolution for the Red Wings for the new year here.
I think I'd like to see this team start to figure out their defensive structure, their defensive identity. They're still giving up way too many shots. They have 40 shots on goal, the Kings last night. You can't give that up every night and expect to win games. They also had 22 blocked shots last night. That's a lot. That's a high number. That means other teams are really shooting. So I'd like to see them start locking that down. I don't know, as we just discussed about a trade deadline, if something comes that way, I would like to see some kind of structure form, because it just doesn't feel like defensively that they're where they need to be if they want to make a playoff run with this team. So and it's not just we pointed the blame at every defenseman so far on this show, and it's not just one player, it's everyone. They've all got to figure this out because defensively, Sider looks like a completely different player under Derek Lalonde than he did under Blashill. I read somebody quoted on Twitter today saying Sider looked like a 10-year veteran when Blashill was the coach, and now he looks like an 18-year-old rookie coming out of the draft. Uh, yeah, I definitely think they got to figure this out defensively. There's got to be some structure, some meeting of the minds to figure out what's going on. But yeah, I mean, I I'm very interested to see what happens this month. I think this is the make or break month, as we said. January is. I think by the end of this month, we're gonna know if this team's ready to for a playoff spot or not.
Yeah, it's gonna come really quick. We're gonna start figuring that out because I mean, it is tight now, but anyone can go on winning streaks and that'll pull everyone apart. And then you got to decide really quick of if you're buying or selling. And sometimes it takes a while because teams just they're like, we still have a chance. We don't want to sell off. Then you got the Nashville Predators last season. I believe they sold off and then we're pushing for the playoffs
Still,
right at the
yeah.
end. So, I mean, anything can happen, I guess.
Yeah, look
But
at the St. Louis Blues. The year they won it, they were in last place at one point in the
Yeah.
season.
Yeah.
yeah, anything can happen. But you can't always point to that. Everyone points to that. So we can do it. We're last, but look what the Blues did. It's not,
Yeah,
doesn't always happen.
it's anomaly.
It's tough. All right, Devin, what do you got for Red Wings New Year's resolution?
Couple things. First one would be to start on time more often. Even going back to last night's game against the Kings, they fall behind 2-0. They're very lucky that that's as bad as it got, and they were able to tie it up and then take the lead. Obviously, coughed it back up, but they still got a W, and that's what matters. But I guess my point there is they were fighting uphill most of the game because they didn't start on time, and that's kind of a reoccurring theme for them. If they start on time and combine that with what Evan was talking about buying in and figuring out their defensive identity, I think they're going to start playing playoff caliber hockey, and that's where we need them to be by the end of the month. We've talked about that a couple times now. Um, and then the other resolution I'm going to insert here as well is to just uh, what's the word? Trust their youth more. Trust their youth more. This goes back to what we've been talking about episode after episode. That broken record behind Evan. This is my turn to get on that record. Um, if even if they're pushing for the playoffs and they're looking to add and whatnot, I still think that they need to trust their rookies more. There's it's getting to a point where it's baffling that they're not finding ways to give Edmondson playing time. They're very resigned to just let him be in Grand Rapids, and as great as that is for me here in Grand Rapids, the kid should be playing at a higher level. He's at some point there's not much more that the AHL can offer you. It's time to develop at a higher level. Um, it just seems like any other team in this spot with a prospect like Simon Edmondson would be finding ways to get him playing time, and the Red Wings aren't doing it for whatever reason. And it's not just Edmondson, right? Berggren should be playing. He's not playing. I think he's going to end up being traded if they don't figure out how to get him playing time. Albert Johansson just turned 23 yesterday. He's not like some 19-year-old kid that still needs to figure out what it means to be a pro. He's 23 years old. If he doesn't get playing time soon, he's going to go back to Sweden and he'll live close to home and make good money and he'll play. This team, like it's to a point where it's like, yeah, Edmondson's 21 or whatever. He's young. I get it. You don't want to throw him into the fire too soon or too before he's ready. Berggren's 23. So is Johansson. That's an age where you need to start figuring out what you have there and if they're going to be around long term. So not only trust their youth more, but be willing to find out if you can trust them. Because if the Red Wings are serious about still finding their core and building their core and building for the future, those pieces aren't Patrick Kane. Those pieces aren't 30-year-olds you sign in free agency. They're the 18-year-olds you draft and developed over time. And at some point, believe it or not, they do have to get into your lineup for them to actually become part of your core. So the resolution should be to trust their youth, be willing to use their youth, and actually start figuring out what this core is going to be. Because again, Patrick Kane's not part of your core because he's not going to be around in 3 years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
quick plug there for Devin. Quick plug there for Devin. He wrote a good article about this today and for the Hockey Writers. So check that out, people.
Yeah, I was about to say that's like a Grand Rapids one. Yeah, check that out at thehockeywriters.com. It's probably in the newsletter, the Substack as well. So make sure you're checking all that out. Yeah, my New Year's resolution is kind of a combo of both you guys. I mean, because the defense definitely needs to be better. The goaltending definitely needs to be better. We said that many times. And the prospects, I think, can help this team. I mean, some of them are kind of starting to become not prospects, like you said, Devin. Getting to that point where you're not calling them that anymore. But maybe they can help. I mean, like Simon Evanson, yeah, he may not have had the games he was called up for. He may not have had the best games, but he's got to be in the lineup more consistently to build that. And you need these guys, and they can help your lineup and inject it with some energy as well. So that those two definitely need to be there. I don't know anything else that really comes to mind as a resolution. I think those are the biggest ones. Definitely defense and goaltending, because you need that to make the playoffs and even to go far in the playoffs as well. So those two need to be fixed for sure. All right. Well, I've got a quick off the rush to end the show here, and it's on Patrick Kane, and I have heard this, and you kind of mentioned it, Evan, a bit. Could he be traded? He's on that 1 year deal, a prorated 1 year deal, but he chose to sign with the Red Wings. I believe he has a no trade as well as part of that. So it would be tough to do, but is that something that they would think about doing? Evan, I'll start with you.
Well, I think by the trade deadline, Steve Yzerman's going to have a pretty good handle on where this team is headed. I like I said, I don't want them to trade him. He's fun to watch. I never thought I'd like him because I always hated him on the Blackhawks, but he's still got it, man. He's still a great player.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but if you can, if the Red Wings if they have another December month in January or February, then I could see him wanting to maybe move, and maybe you're getting a second or third rounder for him. I don't know if you're getting a first. I don't think you're getting a first for him, but there's definitely going to be playoff contenders looking for that kind of help. So again, it's all comes. It's how the Red Wings play this month and in February is going to dictate if he's here or not, because he doesn't have that many years left playing. So I'm pretty sure he might want to move to a contender, or maybe he's happy here with the Brincat. I don't know, but I just hope the Red Wings can really pick it up this next 2 months so he does stay. But yes, I could see him being traded if they
He
struggle.
does have a no trade clause, so he would have to.
He'd have to
accept
approve
that
it.
for sure. Devin, what do you think about Kane potentially maybe wanting to move, or if he will be?
Yeah, I think Evan pretty much summed it up pretty well there. If it comes down, if we're getting into late February, early March, and the Red Wings are clearly not going to be a big factor in the playoff picture, it just makes sense that Kane would want to go to a team that is a factor in the playoffs. Like you said, he doesn't have a whole lot of years left of him. Even if he has perfect health and that hip is gonna be fine, even then he's got like 3 to 5 years maximum, and that's assuming his hip is fine. So it just would make sense that if the Red Wings aren't going to be that team, then he wants to go somewhere else. And I honestly believe that was kind of an understanding between the two parties when he initially signed with the Red Wings. Because if things go good and the Red Wings are going to be a playoff team, then yeah, great, you're going to be part of it. If not, they'll find somewhere to send you to. Yzerman's very much a player's GM in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Typically tries to find fits for the guys that he works with. So yeah, I definitely think it's a possibility. Like Evan, I would like to see them in a spot to where they're thinking about extending him rather than trading him.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like Evan said, the next couple of months are going to dictate what route they take.
And real quick here, so last year when the Rangers traded for Kane, they got a conditional second round and a fourth round pick for him. So we're probably looking at something in that area too.
Yeah, that's
Especially
definitely
maybe
what we want.
possibly more since he's a lot healthier and playing a lot better than he did last year with the Rangers.
Yeah,
Contract's not as hard to finagle either.
right. Yeah, it's a much lower contract. So yeah, he would probably be easier to move than he was before. But yeah, I'm hoping that that doesn't happen because we want the Red Wings in that playoff mix. That they don't want to trade guys like that; they want to keep them. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But thanks, Evan and Devin, for another grind line here. Red Wings are like I say, it's not doom and gloom. I think it was more doom and gloom last season at this point. I believe they were in the midst of a 6 or 7 game losing streak or something like that. So it's a lot more positive, but they definitely still have things to work on to be a playoff team. But yeah, some positive stuff because they are on a 2-game winning streak going into Anaheim. So make sure to check out all our articles at hockeywriters.com. Check out the Substack. And yes.
Devin, did you get your curly fries this week, man? I thought you'd be packing on the pounds by now these last 2 weeks.
Of course I did. And a Jamocha shake just to top it off.
I missed that place.
But yeah, check out everything at the Hockey Writers. Lots of great stuff going on there. We're covering the PWHL now. Detroit doesn't have a team in that league yet. Hopefully that's coming. But yeah, check that league out. It's a lot of fun. The games I saw, it's lots of fast-paced hockey. So check that out. But until next time, we'll see you on another episode of The Grind Line.